My name is Joel Jassu. I was born and raised in Uganda, a small slum called Banda, which has one of the worst living conditions, quite honestly, in the country. It was right at the edge of the city limits of the capital city, Kampala. So I was born and raised there to two parents who had five children, and I happened to be the last one. And I usually like to joke that I was their favorite. And so my siblings don't want to hear that. But yeah, my father was an electrical technician, and my mother lost her job when she gave birth to me, and she never went back into the workforce. And so she stayed home to take care of us, the five children, and just make sure we're okay. And she was a farmer, still is a farmer, and has been farming for 60 years. Unfortunately, in 2005, my father passed away, and that completely shifted the trajectory of our lives. Yeah, life just became extremely difficult because dad was the main breadwinner. I'll say that those experiences really shaped who I am today, and they taught me how to be grateful. They taught me what it means to go through difficult circumstances and still love on people and still be generous and all that good stuff. I ended up at the University of Memphis through a series of really a miracle, I would say, because I had a family that had essentially taken me in after my father had passed away. And their child, who at the time in 2012 was 6 years old, had been diagnosed with a very critical brain tumor. And about 3 weeks before he could die, we had a scholarship. The family had a scholarship from Labona Hospital in Memphis, Tennessee. So here is where Memphis comes into the picture. Okay. The doctor called Dr. Boop, heard about the story of this young boy who was about to die from this very complicated brain tumor. He had so much compassion on him that he talked to the board of Labona Hospital, and the board decided to scholarship the entire surgery. And so the family came to Memphis for the surgery. The surgery was very successful. It was written about in the Memphis Medical Journal, and different people read the story. And a group of men visited the hospital to visit this Ugandan pastor with a 6-year-old who had had a very successful surgery. And those four men, I just fell in love with my adopted family, and they later came to Uganda for the next summer because my adopted family had started an orphanage in Uganda that these four men in Memphis wanted to be a part of and support. When those four men came to Uganda, they found me volunteering at the orphanage there, and one of them happened to be an architect. And I'd always wanted to be an architect all my life. In fact, I'd gone to school in high school and did technical drawing and drafting, and he asked me, Joel, what do you want to do? I said, I want to be an architect. He never said anything, and I had no idea that he was an architect. He came back to Memphis, and he gathered a group of people around Memphis, including the American Institute of Architects, the Memphis chapter, including people like Lunaric Skis here in Memphis, and the principals of that company. They basically put together a fund that would scholarship me to come from Uganda to come to University of Memphis on a full ride scholarship to study architecture. And so that is how I ended up at University of Memphis, and everybody was scared about, my academics. Oh my God, is he going to make it? He can't take a full course load and all that kind of stuff. Needless to say, I don't say this often, but I ended up graduating with one of the highest GPAs the program I'd ever seen, 10 years. And so just really grateful for the opportunity to come to University of Memphis and really experience that. And I'll tell you one really quick story that changed my life. Miss Drew Welsh. Miss Drew Welsh was the director of admissions at University of Memphis when I was there. I'm not sure if Miss Drew Welsh is there. She's still there. She's still the director. But I tell you what, she changed my life. And I'll forever be indebted to Miss Drew Welsh. I walked up to Miss Drew Welsh's office. It was the end of May, right before the beginning of the month in June, and we're looking for a way to get to University of Memphis. I walked up to Miss Drew Welsh's office. She said, son, man, the admission process was all closed. Admissions were due in December. This is May. This is the end of May. And Miss Drew Welsh, she said, look, son, even if I wanted to help you, I just couldn't. I just can't. And she said, semester is starting in a few months. We can't take you in. I went that evening, I went back, and when I got to my host family, we received a phone call. And somehow we had left our phone number with Miss Drew Welsh. And we received a phone call, and my host picks it up, and Miss Drew says, "Hey, is this Joel?" And my host says, "No, this is not Joel, but I can give him the phone." And so she hands me the phone, and Miss Drew Welsh said, "Hey, Joel, I just want to tell you something." I said, "Yeah." She said, "I've been here 35 years, and I've never done this for anybody. But when you left my office, I just felt the prompting to do this just for you." She said, "Go ahead, send in your application, and we'll admit you for the fall." And she said, "Joel, have you heard of the SATs?" I said, "No, ma'am, I don't know what that is." She said, "Well, that might be a caveat because the last SAT date is in about 4 days. But if you do get your SATs in, I will make one exception that I've never done in my career, and I'll get you in for the fall." And Miss Drew Welsh changed my life. She gave me a chance. She allowed me into that university, and I'll forever, forever be indebted to Miss Drew Welsh. In fact, on my graduation day, when my family from Uganda came, they had a chance to meet Miss Drew Welsh and say thank you. And so, anyway, I left University of Memphis. I got a full ride scholarship at Georgia Institute of Technology. So I moved to Atlanta with a full ride president scholarship. And so I studied my master's in architecture. And when I finished my master's in architecture, that no, we'll give you another full ride if you want to get another master's. I stayed on, get my master's in urban design, and now I work at Parkins and Will, the second largest design firm in the world, as a project manager, and I'm working on projects around the world, including very, very exciting project in Uganda. I'm also part-time faculty at Georgia Institute of Technology now, and I teach in the graduate program there. And I do have a son and a wife, and we live happily in Atlanta. Miss Drew Welsh had no idea what her faithfulness would do to many people around the world, including people in my family and kids in Uganda and the school that I'm building right now there. So explore a different city, a different place, because it allows you to expand your network. It allows you to expand the things that you can imagine yourself doing. And also, if you have a chance to study something beyond your immediate major, to help supplement. And so there's two things that for me, that I look back on my career that totally changed my career trajectory. I went and studied, of course, got my master's degree in architecture, but I also went and studied urban design. And along the way, I got classes around business and real estate, and all of those things have really helped me be a well-rounded architect and somebody who thinks about the built environment differently. And so my encouragement is that, recent graduates, God designed each one of us with many gifts. He did. No one in the world is only meant to do one thing. Each one of us is gifted with different things. And I think on a personal level, I think I gained an incredible network of people and quarterbacks of my career. And, I think about the chair and the vice chair of the program at the time when I was there, Michael Hagee and Sherry Hagee. Those people have continued to champion my career way beyond, my time at University of Memphis. And so, yeah, from a personal standpoint, I've never gained such a network and a net worth of people that really believed in me. And here's the thing. My experience at University of Memphis, I could summarize it in this. I found people who did not just believe in me, but they believed in me enough to invest in what they believed in. And I think, to me, that's what University of Memphis did to me. I tell you what, I can't get past that moment when my family met Miss Drew Welsh on my graduation day. That was just a full circle moment for me. And I remember the picture so vividly in front of the uh her office on, I think, the 11th floor or something in in the tower, in the Memphis Tower. And just that moment of gratitude, I think summed up my moment at University of Memphis when I saw the woman that opened the door for me, see me go through my time at University of Memphis and my family in Uganda come, give her an embrace and cry in front of her and say, thank you. Because without you, the door would have never been open. And so I think that's one of my favorite moments that I'll forever carry with me the rest of my life, honestly. And every time I drive in Memphis, my wife and I have family in Memphis and we come down, very often. Every time I drive by that tower and I see it, I can't help but remember Miss Drew Welsh. Well, when I was in architecture school, most of my time was spent in that Jones Hall. Yeah, Jones Hall. We were in there all day, all night, all day, all night. And so, you know what? One of my favorite things that I used to do a lot is every after we had like a big presentation or review, I went down to the library. There's Einstein's was down there, and I'm not sure if it's still there. And man, I would get a caramel frappuccino and banana nut bread, and that's how I celebrated every single time. And that walk from Jones Hall to the library was a walk of victory every time. Well, it was a walk of it. And as soon as I had that in my hand, I'm like, okay, you know, like we've done it. The semester's ended and just, being thankful for that. You know, I feel very proud to be part of the legacy of that institute and the legacy of the School of Architecture. There is so many people that have come out of that program and have gone on to do amazing things. And I think, being able to come from University of Memphis, and come to an Ivy League, highly top-rated institute and come here and still be a top student and graduate as a top student in my class, reminded me that the foundations that I got from University of Memphis were foundations of a champion. And the things that people do at University of Memphis are building people to really compete on an international stage. And so I'm really proud of that city. And, when I think about University of Memphis, I think about just incredible generosity, right? And while I was at University of Memphis, several times I won so many scholarships, merit scholarships at that institute. And I know behind those merit scholarships were individuals that were giving money towards the University of Memphis and that program that enabled me to graduate debt free. And you know what? Being able to graduate debt free in our world today there's no other gift that an institute can give you but leave you uh, graduating debt free. And so when I think about my time there, I can't help but think about the incredible generosity of that institute. Man, when I was at University of Memphis, I had no doubt one day in my mind that people loved me, that they cared about me, that they valued who I was and who I was becoming enough for them to invest in it. And today I get to experience the joy of that, being able to be a proud member of the Memphis alumni community. University of Memphis was my first, it was like the airport. I landed there and I was launched out of University of Memphis to go different places and create an impact. But that never, never, never will forget what my launching pad was, and that was Memphis.